Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. What is physics? Physics is that branch of science which deals with measurement, matter, and energy and their interaction. Remember this, if we are taking any measurement, it is coming within the ambit of physics. If we are talking about matter and its interaction with energy, so these all things are concerned with physics. So in nutshell, physics is that branch of science which deals with measurements, matter and energy and their interaction. All these things which are studied in these things according to measurement or matter of energy, these are all studied in physics. Now, as I told you that we are talking about measurement. With reference to measurement, we can talk about two types of quantities. One are the physical quantities and other are the non-physical quantities. So here I have written that physical quantities. Obviously from the name it is clear that physical quantities mean all measurable quantities. Now you can think about it that what quantities can be measured, because physical quantities are all measurable quantities. Now you can say that because we can measure the length of a thing, we can measure the distance, we can measure time, we can measure mass, we can measure volume of a thing. So these all things, these all quantities are called physical quantities. Okay. For example, if you are required to measure the mass of sugar, if you are going to a shop and asking him that please give me 5 kg of sugar, so obviously he will measure that matter sugar and he will give you 5 kg sugar by measuring with his balance, etc. Okay, in the same way, if you are talking about time, you will see it, you can measure the time with the help of your watches or clocks, etc. So all things that can be measured are called physical quantities. Okay. So if we are talking about physical quantities, now there are certain non-physical quantities. Now think about it. Against the physical quantities, we have some non-physical quantities, like your feelings, the feeling of pain, feeling of love, sadness, happiness, beauty of nature. Okay, all these things are non-physical quantities because we don't have any yardstick or any instrument which can measure all these things. There is no instrument which can measure your happiness. There is no instrument which can measure your love, affection, your hatred, etc. These are the feelings which cannot be measured with the help of the instruments, or the beauty of nature cannot be measured. So all these quantities are called non-physical quantities. Well, now come to the next thing is the fundamental or fundamental physical quantities or the base quantities. Actually, fundamental physical quantities or base quantities which single exist, which are not made up of more than which are not derived from any other quantity, and they single exist, these are called the fundamental quantities. For example, you can say that length is a fundamental physical quantity. In the same way, mass is a fundamental physical quantity. Time is a fundamental physical quantity. Current, temperature. Okay. So these are the example of physical quantities. Almost we talk about 7 fundamental physical quantities, and you can see the chart from the notes. Okay. Well, so I think so it is clear that what are the fundamental physical quantities which single exist, because length single exist, mass single exist. Okay. So now for the fundamental physical quantities or the base quantities, we have base unit. Let us consider a fundamental physical quantity. For example, there is a fundamental physical quantity distance. Distance is measured in kilometer, meters or centimeter, etc. So its unit is kilometer, meter or centimeter, etc. So there is a base physical quantity which is distance. So its unit is kilometer, meter, centimeter, etc. So these are called the base units. So base unit are those units which are concerned with the base quantities. If I am talking about mass, because mass is a base quantity or the fundamental physical quantity, its unit is kilogram. In the same way, current is a fundamental physical quantity, its units is ampere. So base units are those units which are concerned with the base quantities or the base or fundamental physical quantities. Now come to the point derived units. Obviously, if we are talking about derived physical quantities, then we will talk about derived unit. Now, what are derived physical quantities? First of all, we have to talk about derived physical quantities. For example, speed. Speed is a derived physical quantity because speed is made up of two fundamental units: distance over time. Distance over time. Speed is equal to distance over time. So speed is a derived physical quantity. Now if we are talking about the unit of speed, it is kilometer per hour or meter per second. If this is derived physical quantity, then its unit will also be a derived unit. And derived physical quantities is made up of two or more than two base physical quantities, because this derived quantity can be depending upon two or more than two base quantities, whether by dividing two base quantities or by multiplying two base quantities. For example, volume. Volume is a derived physical quantity. So you can see area and volume. I can also have the example of area. Area is equal to length multiplied by breadth. So these two things are being multiplied with each other. In the same way, density is equal to mass over volume. Density is also a derived quantity, and the unit of density is kilogram per meter cube or grams per centimeter cube. So if we are talking about derived quantity, then its unit will be derived unit. Okay, now come to the point that what are the prefixes. Basically, prefixes are the multiples or sub-multiples of 10, which basically are used to convert smaller to larger unit or larger to smaller unit. And the examples of prefixes are kilo. We use a small k for kilo, 10 raised to power 3. In the same way, we use mega, capital M, for 10 raised to power 6. In the same way, a smaller prefix is milli, represented by small m, is equal to 10 raised to power minus 3. There is a large list of prefixes which we use in our physical quantities while measuring or while converting the unit from smaller to larger unit or from larger to smaller unit. So these are called prefixes. Later on, inshallah, you will learn that how we are going to convert from smaller unit to larger unit or larger to smaller unit. That will be dealt in prefixes. Now, what is scientific notation? I think so you people are aware of this. For example, if a number is written there like 68975, 68,975. So this number can also be written as 6.8975 into 10 raised to power 4, because initially the decimal was here, but later on I shifted the decimal at this position. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is 10 raised to power 4. Take another example, 0.0078. Now here I have shifted a decimal after between these two, 7.8 into 10 raised to power minus 3. 1, 2, 3. If we are shifting towards right, then it will be 10 raised to power minus 3. If we are shifting towards left, it is positive. Okay. Now, basically, in the case of scientific notation, remember this, there must be a one non-zero digit. After the first non-zero digit, you will have to place the decimal. Here you can see that there was zeros, and then there comes the first non-zero digit, which is 7. So here the decimal comes. Okay, so these are called scientific notations.